Vancouver, 2010. Two of the best in the game will compete on the same Olympic ice for the first time, and everyone's picking sides.
There's no doubt who the better player is. Sidney Crosby.
I think I'll pick Ovechkin.
Is there an advantage to one has over the other? Maybe the home ice advantage to Sidney because it's in Vancouver, but they're both great players.
Two superstars carrying their country's hopes in Olympic hockey's fiercest rivalry. Canada versus Russia. Crosby versus Ovechkin. Different players, different styles. Who's got the edge?
I think Sidney Crosby is an evolutionary figure, sort of the way Mario Lemieux was. He is the next step.
For a young guy, he's very, very serious about what he wants to do.
And he pushes everybody else to rise to their very best that they can be.
With Sidney leading the team, we'll definitely have an edge in the Olympics, and Ovechkin will lead the Russian team.
Alex has a streak of genius to him. He does not disappear into the flow of the game. He is the game.
You know, you don't see many Alexes around probably in the history of our sport.
Alexander Ovechkin is on a mission this year.
But so is Sidney Crosby. Both want to win it all in the gold medal round. And if the stars align, we'll get the showdown of a lifetime.
It would be everybody's dream if those two guys were facing off for the gold medal. People's hearts are going to be beating in this country in a way that they have never beaten before.
In Canada, it's the star attraction of the Winter Olympics, the men's hockey tournament. And there wasn't a soul in the country who doubted that Sidney Crosby would be front and center on Team Canada.
You dream of that opportunity, so it's exciting, and and realize the whole country's behind you, and basically you want to represent them and all the guys who have wore the jersey before.
Half a world away, it was just as safe a bet that Alexander Ovechkin would be a marquee player on the Russian team.
It's going to be an amazing time for us. It's going to be fun time, and it's going to be hard time. So we're going to try.
Crosby versus Ovechkin. They've been measured and compared since their rookie days. And there's more fire in the rivalry with every season.
The first couple of years we played against each other, it was more kind of something that was being celebrated. You know, it was two young guys who have had success early on in their careers. And then I think it's kind of changed, it's kind of evolved. It became more me against him, and I think then it turned into kind of something that was a bitter rivalry.
We want a rivalry, and we want to compare. We want, we want Ali versus Frazier. We want contrasting styles and contrasting personalities, and we wanted to see the contest decided.
And as it escalates, the rivalry just gets better for the fans. This season, Crosby and Ovechkin are once again battling for the scoring title. Their teams are neck and neck in the standings, and they're playing with red-hot intensity. Well before the Olympic break, Crosby delivers another hat trick. His second of the season, fourth of his career. And the hats rain down from the Pittsburgh faithful. And now they're both captains. Ovechkin earned the C on his jersey in a unanimous vote by his Washington teammates. But there have been lows, too. Both have suffered injuries. And Ovechkin was suspended for a knee-on-knee hit. Accidental or not, it raised questions about his aggressive, almost reckless style of play.
I don't think you can take a guy like Ovechkin and say, look after yourself, be careful, because you risk wrecking the way he plays.
Ovechkin has always done it his own way. In hockey and in life. He cultivates an image that's part grunge, part kid who's still growing up.
If I want to do something, I'm going to do it. It's who I am.
What's Wangreski Hammond doing here?
Ever since Alexander has entered the league, he was somewhat of an enigma. Has created just a charisma that's attracted a lot of fans. I like to call it the mythology of Alexander Ovechkin.
He is one of the most flashy, flamboyant, animated, vocal
unfiltered players in the NHL today.
Rock star status.
Rock star status.
Thank you.
Flashy, irreverent, and always unique. And we love him for it.
Sidney's not that type of guy. He's not the type of person off the ice, and Ovechkin is. So, with Sidney, you know, he wants to score goals just as bad as Ovechkin wants to score goals, even though he doesn't jump up and down and hit the glass after every goal. He just shows it different ways, and he's more of a controlled emotion, maybe, and off the ice, he's a little more private than Ovechkin is, I think.
Those who've known Sidney Crosby a long time aren't surprised that the money and the fame haven't really changed him.
I think that people respect him for the ability to what he stands for. And I think it goes hand in hand with his character of who he is in all aspects of his life and his game.
With his first piercing, Sidney Crosby becomes the youngest recipient in the history of the award.
The youngest ever. Crosby has heard that a lot in his career. In only his second year in the NHL, he won 3 of hockey's most prestigious awards, including Most Valuable Player. But the next year, Ovechkin one-upped him. The same 3 awards, plus the trophy for leading scorer.
It's too hot, actually. Thank you very much. Next year, Stanley Cup will be ours. What a life. Thank you.
Ovechkin wasn't the only one who believed Washington could win the Cup in 2009. But first they had to get by Pittsburgh in round 2 of the playoffs. For fans, it was the dream matchup. Sid and Alex head-to-head. One goes to the conference final, the other goes home. The hype is enormous, and what the games deliver is just as big. It's the best hockey played all year. A wild ride of ups and downs.
For me, I think the most important thing was just to focus on what I had to do and probably just not to let all of the, I guess, the hype between myself and Alex kind of affect what I did.
The series has it all. The hits, the goals, even a pair of hat tricks, one each in the same game. Six games end in deadlock.
For me, that was my first Game 7, so I wasn't sure how I was going to react to it. It's hard to really kind of grasp what you're feeling. I just remember knowing that, you know, just basically leave it all out there and see what happens.
But in the 7th and deciding game, Pittsburgh is just too good. Crosby advances. Ovechkin and Washington are gone.
You know, it's always hard when you lose that kind of game, but you know, it's life, and sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, and you have to learn from that.
The year before, Crosby found himself in the same empty place after losing in the Stanley Cup final.
This is a tough one, getting this close and not winning the cup. But I know it'll make our team even stronger. I never want to be in this photograph again.
Who knew at that time when we did that ad after your first year that this was going to occur again against Detroit?
This time, a different ending. After beating Washington, Crosby and the Penguins go all the way.
He really believed that, hey, we're going to win this thing. I think that shows a lot of experience and maturity.
Sid the Kid became the youngest captain ever to hoist Lord Stanley's Cup. This was now his team, as surely as it had once been Mario Lemieux's.
I was here in Cole Harbour, like most of the fans were, and watching on the big screen at Cole Harbour Place, leaning against the wall where he took his first steps. Now I watch him raise the Stanley Cup. It's pretty special.
There was a spectacular celebration in Pittsburgh when they raised the Stanley Cup banner to the rafters in the old igloo. But Crosby was already thinking about the next big matchup. The Vancouver Olympic Games will reignite the Canada-Russia rivalry that's been simmering for half a century, and the world will be watching. Sid the Kid versus Alexander the Great, the Olympians. Alexander Ovechkin and Sidney Crosby had met before, on international ice, half a decade ago at the World Junior Championship.
The international tournaments that they start playing against one another from under 17 and they're under 16 at times. The top players of each country are now starting to face one another. They also recognize, what their weaknesses are. In order for me to achieve to the next level, I've got to be better than the guy that's opposite me.
Crosby had been waiting to play for Canada a long time.
When he was 15, a year before the World Juniors, Team Canada's training camp was in Halifax. He asked them to be the water boy. And he wanted to watch the practices and how the players behaved. He was preparing himself to be on that team.
It wasn't the first time Ovechkin had played for his country and felt the pressure that comes with it.
Olympic Games, World Championship, or it doesn't matter what tournament. I want to represent my country.
The Canadian and Russian teams burned through the competition, setting up a showdown for the gold medal.
For me, that's the matchup that always comes to mind when you think of, Canada's rival. That's, it's Russia.
But the game within the game is the matchup between Crosby and Ovechkin.
I heard about him. I heard he's a good player, but I never seen him before. So when I have a chance to see him, I said, yeah, he's a really good player.
Could tell that he was a pretty dominant player. We all felt this was going to be the biggest test as far as individual players were concerned.
There's no doubt that they were both competing for this gold medal. Both players knew where the other one was on the ice.
The final game is close for a while, but Canada seals it in the second period when Ovechkin gets hurt and leaves the game.
Living out your dream of winning a gold medal at the World Juniors, something I had watched every year since I can remember.
Crosby is younger than most of the players. Too young to go pro. But Ovechkin is a year older, and every scout in the NHL has an eye on him.
The Washington Capitals are pleased to select Alexander Ovechkin.
I was not surprised. I'm expected to be number one. I have one dream. I follow this dream all the time. So when I come here to NHL, I just want to be the best, and I do my best.
But his best would have to wait. It was the year of the NHL lockout, and nobody played at all. Crosby's draft comes after the lockout. For the first time in NHL history, there's a lottery to start the draft, and bingo balls decide which team gets to pick first. It's known as the Sidney Crosby Sweepstakes.
They closed the street off because there was camera crews outside and satellite trucks. It was just a circus outside. It was nuts. We were just watching the television like everyone else, not knowing what's going to happen the next couple of hours. A big day in his life, because when that lottery ball falls down, this is where he's going to start his career.
Pittsburgh wins the lottery.
Pittsburgh Penguins select from Rimouski, the Quebec Major Junior League, Sidney Crosby.
I remember leaning over to another fellow scout at the time and saying, this young man they drafted, I said, you guys probably don't realize, but I coached him a number of times. I said, don't be surprised if Pittsburgh Penguins win a Stanley Cup in the next 3 to 5 years.
So the stage is set. Crosby and Ovechkin both play their rookie season in 2005. And the two of them put on a show. It's a treat for the fans, but for their respective teams, it's a lifesaver.
This kid's a star every time. The passion level that he brings to the ice is awesome.
At that time, they wanted to sell the team, and they didn't have the funds to build a new stadium. Pittsburgh was going like this.
After Crosby was drafted, the Penguins sold more tickets in August than they had the entire previous season. It's a similar story in Washington. Ticket sales go up, and Ovechkin jerseys and memorabilia sell like crazy.
He's the greatest thing that's ever happened to our franchise.
When the first season is done, the only question is, which one was the more spectacular rookie?
The Calder Memorial Trophy, Rookie of the Year.
From the Pittsburgh Penguins, Sidney Crosby. Youngest player ever to tally 100 points in a season.
From the Washington Capitals, Alexander Ovechkin. A one-man highlight reel. 106 points. Led all rookies in scoring.
And the Calder goes to
Alexander Ovechkin.
First of all, I want to say thanks Sidney and John. Great season. You're great players, guys, and good luck in the future.
Ovechkin and Crosby were now hockey's best ambassadors. Not since Wayne Gretzky had the NHL found anything that could sell the game like Sid versus Alex. By the time they're both selected to their first All-Star team, they're superstars on the ice and off.
Hi, I'd like to order some food. How many people in the room? Just me. 3 pizza, 4 chicken fingers, 2 meatloaf dinner, 6 large french fries. I need some sausage. 5 lobsters, lots of ketchup, chicken corn dogs. My name? Sidney Crosby.
Ovechkin.
I can't do it.
The rivalry is a marketer's dream. After the bitter business of the lockout, for the league and the fans, hockey was back.
They're two phenomenal players, and they're both very selfless in trying to do what they can to grow the sport, which is fantastic for us.
Being a superstar means you're never really off the clock. But then again, the rewards are spectacular. If you put a decimal point between the 8 and the 7 on Sidney Crosby's jersey, that's how many millions he makes every year. Alexander Ovechkin has a 13-year contract valued at $124 million. the fattest in NHL history.
Yeah.
And there's more to come. A new deal with IMG will take Alex deeper into the global marketplace, adding yet more endorsements. Las Vegas. Big lights, big money, big stars. 2K Sports has brought Ovechkin here to make him the marquee player in a new video game. And we're not talking just the photo on the cover.
We really had to elevate ourselves to come up with ideas that matched Alex Ovechkin.
They dress him in what's called a motion capture suit to copy his style and signature moves.
Motion capture technology allows us to track an individual's motions. So what we do is we put these feature points, or in this case, these reflective white markers, all over their joints. We've got 60 cameras. Each camera will basically act as a video camera and record where those white dots, those markers are on a person's body. And then a computer will then reconstruct all of those video feeds together and then recreate the 3D representation of that person's body. We can then recreate how a person moves. When you see Ovi do his certain, celebration or a particular deke, that motion goes onto the game character and it behaves and acts exactly as he does.
I love hockey, I love playing video games, I love, I love this atmosphere, and it's still fun and it's still a great time.
2K picked Ovechkin because right now he's the hot property for a generation of gamers.
When fans play the game and they're controlling Ovi and he scores, they see him celebrating like this and they feel like it's actually real.
To launch the new game, marketers came up with something splashy. A stunt to make even Ovechkin blush.
We were able to shut down the city of New York. We had help from the New York City police officers, and we had Alex driving a Zamboni for the first time in traffic down 6th Avenue in New York, right to the NHL store.
Oh, I'm already broken. Nate! Okay, I'm ready. I'm professional.
You know you've arrived when you can get New York City to shut down 6th Avenue for a joyride.
Okay, so what I have to do? People, come in. Buy something, come on. I need some money.
Then, Ovechkin plays himself, playing himself.
What I'm doing?
Yeah, don't hit this one right here. Look at the wrist.
You don't want to beat him and make him look bad, but you also want to beat him to make yourself look good. So.
What, get penalty? Penalty shot. Let's do a penalty shot.
We'll get you suited up and we'll get you out of here. We're going to start with some close-ups. If you could just have your body kind of arc this way. You'll hear me, you just won't see me. Take it off.
While Alex loves the flash, when it comes to the media spotlight, Sid would always prefer less. He can be fiercely private, so marketing him requires a delicate touch.
I'd rather be spending more time at the rink than, I guess, a studio shooting commercials.
He doesn't want to be a walking billboard, but he understands his role with kids as a role model with adults, and he takes it very seriously.
For guys who've kind of been chosen to do things, it's something that comes with the territory, and I appreciate it, and I don't ever take it for granted.
Crosby just doesn't go looking for exposure. So when he agreed to a photo piece for GQ magazine in his second season, this was a side of the kid we'd never seen before.
He got teased a bit about it afterwards. A lot of the girls were happy about the articles, though.
He's got more endorsement offers than he could possibly agree to. But if he's selective, he's also very loyal, especially when it's something he believes in.
I don't control the bumps and the bruises. I don't control the bounces, the shootout order. There are a lot of things in life I don't control. But then again, there are some things that I do.
Yes, he really did play Tim Hortons hockey. And he's stuck by the brand ever since, because he supports their development of grassroots hockey in Canada.
It's important for him to understand the brand and like the brand. Otherwise, he won't. It's not about the money in the end.
Sid had to be convinced to back any Crosby products. But in this game, merchandising comes with the territory.
Sidney, if he had his druthers, wouldn't want to sit down and sign things. He knows that he has to cater to this market. Sidney is the #1 seller by far in hockey. And if he has to do that, then he wanted to pick a company that was going to do it the right way.
And it's big business. Upper Deck produces and markets hockey trading cards. Crosby appears on more than 1,263 different cards. And Ovechkin's not far behind, with 1,058.
A Crosby rookie card worth $10,000. That's one of our premier hockey products, and Ovechkin's at $4,500. Now, the fact that Sidney has won a Stanley Cup this past year has factored into Sidney's cards being higher in demand now.
Sid's Stanley Cup card is the newest edition, released just in time for Christmas. They are in the marketing business, after all. Reebok's deal with Crosby ranges from clothing to high-performance hockey equipment. It's a long-standing affiliation that lets him shoot some of his commercials back home in Nova Scotia.
This was my prom. It was my spring break. Semester abroad. What do you call a life dedicated to hockey? I'd call it time well spent.
Time spent on ice rinks almost from the day he could walk. It was no different for a Russian kid named Alex growing up on the other side of the world. Both future stars. But outside the game, oh so different. Sid the Kid's 21st year ends with a birthday party that's the dream of a lifetime. Honoring one of hockey's great traditions, his gift is to bring the Stanley Cup home. From start to finish, the day is pure Crosby. It starts with a show of respect for the men, women, and families of the Canadian Forces.
The fact that you've chosen to share this day with the men and women of the Canadian Forces is a tribute to your class, your commitment to the game of hockey, to your country.
Then a private breakfast to say thanks to all his former coaches, including Paul Gallagher. A return to the IWK Children's Hospital to bring the cup to them. There's a fundraiser where all 87 lucky winners have their picture taken with Sid and the cup. And then, what else but a road hockey game?
I always was in that. For some reason, I always played goalie since we started playing road hockey together. I grew up with these guys, and we played the exact same way we did today since we were 5 or 6 years old.
This time, there are a few thousand spectators, and the Stanley Cup is at stake.
You can't lift above your head, but you can go accept it.
You know, the minute I found out that, you know, you could bring the cup, or if you want it, you got a day with it, that's something I always said, you know, I've got to do that.
Finally, a parade through the streets of Cole Harbor, which has suddenly ballooned to a population of 50,000.
This is incredible. You know,
ran through this in my mind so many times, and as much supportive, as much as I gotten over the last few years here, it's been incredible. But this says it all right here.
Before the night finishes, Sid arranges for a free concert to be played by Sam Roberts. And you know things are going right when it rains, but just long enough to produce a rainbow that arches from one end of Cole Harbor to the other. Before the summer's out, the Penguins team and the Cup have one other visit to make, to Washington. In hockey season, this is Ovechkin's town, but Crosby makes it to the White House first.
This is by far the most fun thing that I'm doing today. Welcome to the White House, the world champion, Pittsburgh Penguins, with their 3rd Stanley Cup. Can I just make one more point? Sidney must be really fast, because there are some big hockey players, and he's not one of them.
Not far from the White House is the Washington Convention Center. And today, this is Alexander Ovechkin's house. It's the annual Washington Capitals Fan Fest, an event to crank up the fever in what used to be an unlikely hockey market. There's a chance to get close and even throw out a few questions to Alex and his teammates.
Can you just do your Don Cherry impression?
Look at Ovechkin, he's a clown. He's Russian stupid. Russia can play hockey. Look at him.
The fans and the sea of red merchandise are sure signs that Washington hockey has never been healthier.
I have like the channel at school to watch every hockey game. It's like that's how important it is to me now.
I just knew this was my game, this is my filming, this is my team.
What we're witnessing is history being made right now. Thanks to Alex Ovechkin.
Then Ovechkin is back on the road for another event, a product launch in Toronto. Ovechkin is the new face of the latest Energizer battery campaign. It's called the Power of 8. Then more photos, more fans, more corporate obligations, and always more autographs.
They want a piece of me sometimes, but you know, it's the same like some famous person, and I don't want to talk to him. It's normal things, I think. You know, it's obligations, but it's part of my life.
Next stop, Moscow. Russia has produced a lot of stars, but right now Ovechkin is king in this town. So it's the perfect place to launch his new line of clothing.
It's a lifestyle component. It's very edgy and unique, similar to Alex's lifestyle. It's since transcended into something no one expected.
Then he's off to a photo shoot for Tatler magazine. It's all part of the business of being Alexander Ovechkin. And while he's in Moscow, he has a date he wouldn't miss for the world. Calgary, Alberta. Summer 2009. 45 of Canada's top players get the call to try out for the men's Olympic hockey team. And the eyes of the country are on them. Team Canada's executive director knows he's got to come up with a winner.
With the atmosphere and being in Vancouver, being a part of the Olympics, you get caught up in it. In some ways, it's more emotional, I think, playing international hockey.
You shouldn't be looking around saying, "Oh, you go now, get them."
The head coach is Detroit's Mike Babcock. And he knows better than anyone that the country's expectations for this team couldn't be higher.
This is our opportunity, and these opportunities, and especially one in your own country, maybe never come again.
The success or failure of the games, and to some degree their impact on the country, is going to be determined by whether or not we win the men's hockey gold medal.
The last Winter Olympics in Turin were a disaster for Team Canada. 7th place. Sidney Crosby didn't make the cut that year. It was his rookie season in the NHL, and they didn't think he was ready. Crosby's agent had to give him the bad news.
I told him, that I'm 98% sure that you're not making the team. He was very disappointed. He wanted to be on that team, there's no doubt, and he was silent. He kept it inside and wanted, the team to do well. In his heart, he wanted to be there.
This time is different. Even before the tryouts, Crosby had a lock on making the team. And it's not just a matter of talent. It's because he understands it'll take more than that to win.
In the Olympics, you're talking about the best players in the world, and there's going to be tons of skill, but it's going to come down to each and every player being responsible.
It's that attitude that set Crosby apart. That and the fact that he has all the other weapons, too.
He is as talented as anybody playing the game right now. He's the total package. He is a great skill player. He is an unselfish player. He's strong. He's a smart hockey player. Canada's very, very lucky to have him.
The only question then was whether he was ready at just 22 years old to be the captain of the team.
And now we're very proud to introduce Canada's forwards for the men's Olympic hockey team.
From Cole Harbour, Nova Scotia, your alternate captain, Sidney Crosby.
When the team selections are announced just before Christmas, it's veteran Scott Niedermayer who wears the C, with Sidney Crosby as one of the alternates.
That he doesn't have to feel the burden to really do a lot other than just to be himself. The way he carries himself, the way he plays on the ice, he's a natural leader on a team. I just want him to go out and play.
It's about being part of something bigger than yourself and giving up your ego for the team. And in the end, all that matters is success.
Parking his ego for the good of the team won't be a problem for Crosby. He's never played any other way.
I think that's always been something instilled in Canadian hockey players. You're taught growing up to make sure that you're doing what it takes for the team to win.
He understands his responsibility and his role, so the pressure is not going to faze him. And the bigger the moment, the more fun he has. To me, as an athlete, that's how you have to accept pressure, and he does that very well.
There are at least 4 hockey nations that could take the gold. Canada is right up there at the top. But so is the powerhouse Russian team.
You look at Russia, they've got a lot of passion too. Country loves hockey. You have so many great players who bring everything.
Canada versus Russia. It's one of the most intense rivalries in all of sport. And neither country believes in second place.
It's a new, proud Russia. Hockey is central. Culturally, the flag is central. They want to win for the homeland. They are us in different colors.
Moscow, the Russian hockey team's Olympic training camp. And the rink is loaded with talent.
They're reigning 2-time world champions. Going into the tournament, they're probably the favorite.
Malkin, Ovechkin, Datsuk, the young Russians have changed the way people, I think about Russian hockey.
The media attention and the passion for the game is just as intense here as it is in Canada. Everyone on the Russian team, directors, coaches, players, they're all in the same pressure cooker. And the one they hope will lead them to Olympic gold is number 8.
Everybody wants to play for the country, and I'm a lucky guy. I was playing the World Championship a couple of times, won Olympic Games, and that experience helped me a lot in my hockey career right now.
Like so many Canadian kids, Ovechkin's old photos make it look like he was born with a stick in his hands. He came up through the elite Dynamo system, one of the youngest players ever to compete internationally. Years of victories brought him fame and notoriety. Now Ovechkin embodies the spirit of Russian hockey.
Ovechkin is a national treasure. They probably have a couple of dozen players or athletes that are considered to be what they call the golden fund of Russia, and he's revered by the entire nation.
And Ovechkin is proud of being counted in that golden fund. Next to family, being a son of Mother Russia means more to him than anything in the world. He wants to win in Vancouver as a prelude to the next Winter Olympics in Sochi, where the Russian team will be playing on home ice.
Ask them about Sochi in the next Olympics. Ask them how much they want to play at home. They want it every bit as much as we do.
We've always had a lot in common, and if Canada and Russia face each other in the gold medal final, it will be a heavyweight title fight.
This team is stunningly talented. Oh, yeah. If Alexander Ovechkin's not the best player in the world, he's 1A. And if Evgeny Malkin is not the best player in the world, he's 1B or 1C. Well, that's a pretty good starting point.
Malkin was at Crosby's side when the Penguins raised the Stanley Cup. But at the Olympics, country is team. And old friendships count for nothing.
If Evgeny Malkin has the puck and his head's down, I can guarantee Sidney's going to hit him.
What's also certain is that Malkin, Ovechkin, and the other big guns will hit back. It may be a new Russia and a new red machine, but some old traditions never change.
Все сплощено как один кулак. Так что сборная России будет олимпийскими чемпионами.
Olympic champion, top of the podium. That's the goal that's now driving both Alexander Ovechkin and Sidney Crosby. In Vancouver, the rivalry between Crosby and Ovechkin will be played out on the biggest stage in the world, the Olympic Games. If there was ever a forum to decide who's better, this is it.
I think both guys are fully committed to this cause. I think both guys care. I think both guys will be prepared. I think both guys will play their hearts out.
Ovechkin has been to the Olympics before. Crosby hasn't, but he'll have home ice advantage. The games will be fast and intense, and both know what to expect from the other.
I respect him as a player, but if I had a chance to hit him or do something against him, why not?
You know, Alex is a different player than I am. He's got that physical presence, and he's tried to use me a few times. It's not the first time that I've had to deal with that. As a player, you can't really do anything but play.
Russia and Canada will have to beat all comers if they're to face each other for the gold. And if that happens, it will be a game for the history books.
This is going to be the great flag-waving moment of our lives. And if that culminates in that hockey game, it will be ecstasy or agony and nothing in between. It will be beyond hockey. It'll be a cultural watershed.
Sid the Kid versus Alexander the Great. Hockey fans have been debating who's the better player. Soon they'll be arguing who's the better Olympian.